All right, in today's lesson, you're going to apply the skills you learned yesterday's lesson with completing the square. Okay, so we're going to get this problem to be in the standard form of what we learned yesterday about conic sections with parabolas, and that it's x minus h squared equals 4p y minus k, right? So in order for us to do that, in order for us to get this in the complete square form, we need to get the one that needs to be completed the square by itself. So I need to get all the x values by itself. So that means I'm going to write 3x squared plus 30x. And then I'm going to move anything that's not an x to the other side. So minus 12y and minus 87. Okay? And then I want to complete the square. Well, if I want to complete the square, I need it to just say x squared. So I'm going to factor out that 3. And if I factor out the 3, I have x squared plus 10x. And this time, I'm going to leave a plus blank so I can actually complete the square. And I'll put a plus blank on the other side as well. Well, remember, completing the square, the formula was b divided by 2 squared, where your b value, you know, is the center value. And so basically, that just means you half it and square it, half it and square it. Well, half of 10 is 5. 5 squared is 25. And normally, I would say, okay, well, since I added 25 to the left, I have to add 25 to the right. But the thing is, I didn't add 25 to the left because there was a 3 on the outside this time. So I really added in 3 times 25, which is 75. Okay? And so then I can clean things up. I have that 3 still on the outside. And now 2 factors that multiply to 25 but add to 10 are x plus 5 and x plus 5, which is why it becomes a perfect square of x plus 5 squared equals negative 12y. If we add negatives 87 plus 75, you get negative 12. And then I'm almost done, but I want it in the form like so. And so I want the right-hand side to say 4p parentheses y minus k. So I'm going to factor out that 12, that negative 12. And if I factor out the negative 12, I have y plus 1. And then I'm almost done. Remember, there was nothing next to my x minus h squared, which means I need to divide both sides by 3. And so that means my equation is x plus 5 equals negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4, y plus 1. And now this looks exactly like yesterday's lesson. So now if we go through and identify, because it's x squared and negative, that means it's going to open down. Our vertex is our h comma k, so that's negative 5, negative 1. Our focus, well, we have to find our p-value. Our 4p equals negative 4. So that means our p-value equals negative 1. Well, your p-value, in this case, if we did a little sketch, negative 5, negative 1. That's where our vertex is. And because we said it opens down, that means your focus is below the vertex. So therefore, it's 1 unit below it. So if it's 1 unit below it, instead of being at negative 5, negative 1, where the vertex is, that would be negative 5, negative 2, right? And then also our axis of symmetry is the split point, so that's x equals negative 5. Like boop, boop, boop. Okay. And then your focal width, remember, is just the positive 4p value, so that would be 12. And then finally, if your p-value was going 1 down for your focus, then it's 1 up for your directrix, which would quite literally be at y equals 0. And then if you wanted to, you could just graph it accurately here, okay? So that is how you apply what we did in yesterday's lesson with the knowledge of completing the square. let's do one more problem. This time, it looks a little funky, it looks a little different, it has a bunch of fractions. And so for this particular one, the very first thing I always do if I see a bunch of fractions, get rid of the fractions. And you can get rid of the fractions by multiplying it by the least common multiple. Well, the least common multiple is whatever the biggest denominator is, essentially. 40, 5, and 5, the biggest denominator here would be 40. And so if I multiply everything by that, I get 40x equals negative y squared. Minus 40 divided by 5 is 8, so that would be negative 8y. And so here that would be 8 times 33, and 8 times 33 is 264. And now, because this one is y squared, that means I want this one to be y minus k squared equals 4p x minus h. Okay, so this time you want to get all the y's together. All right, so the first thing I want to do is switch this order. I'm going to add, since that y squared is negative, I'm going to add everything to the right-hand side. So that becomes positive y squared, positive 8y, since it was negative. And then I'm going to subtract the 4x to the other side, or 40x, I mean. And then the 264 just stays put. That way it's in the correct form where the y's are on the left and the x's are on the right. Now we can complete the square. So if I do that, in this case I don't have to factor anything out, so I just leave a blank. And I'll put a blank on the other side. Now remember, it's b divided by 2 squared. Half of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. And I'll add that to the other side as well. And so then, complete the square. 2 factors of 16 that add to give you 8 are 4 and 4. And so then that means we have negative 40 plus 264 minus, or plus 6, oops. 264 plus 16, that would be 280. Wait, I missed my x. 280. Okay, and so then I want to factor out the negative 40. And so if we do that, that'd be x minus 7, since, you know, 28 divided by 4 is 7. And so now it looks, again, like what we did yesterday. So in this case, because it's negative and y squared, that means it opens up to the left. Your vertex, this is the one where you got to remember the vertex is not negative 4 comma 7. It's always h comma k. So your vertex is 7 comma negative 4. So if I did a little sketch, we know it goes 7 down to negative 4. Is your vertex, and then I know it opens up to the left, which means my focus is to the left of the vertex, which means whatever my p-value is, I want it to subtract it in the left direction. Well, my p-value, 4 divided by, or negative 40 divided by 4 is negative 10. So that means if I go in the left direction by 10 units where I was at 7, then that will end up all the way over here at negative 3, right? Because it was at 7, so that's a total of 10 units to the left. So that means we're at negative 3 comma 4, negative 4. Your focal width is the absolute value of 40. Your directrix is on the opposite side, so since it went 10 units to the left, then it's going to go 10 units to the right, which would be x equals, because it goes boop, 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 x equals 17, right? And then your axis of symmetry is always the halfway point of the parabola, which would be at y equals negative 4, okay? And then you just want to make sure you know how to sketch it, like by doing the focal width. Make sure you know where the focal width is with the, over here, with the diameter, you know? Where it's like, since it's 40, that means that It goes 20 here and 20 here, so just make sure you still know how to find those values just like we did yesterday. So that's how you find parabolas with what we did yesterday with what we're doing today for completing the square.